Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Moto. Today we are riding the all-new Can-Am Canyon. Now for those of you who are entirely out of the know, Can-Am has started making three-wheeled on-road machines, probably over 10 years ago at this point. I guess it's been a long time since the Spyder came out. Wow. Yeah, so it's been a while now that they've established themselves and continued establishing themselves in this three-wheel on-road riding experience. And it kind of makes sense coming from a company that's so entrenched in snowmobiles. I grew up riding snow machines, had a number of Skidoos. My very first sled was a Skidoo, and then I still own a Skidoo. So it makes sense that a Canadian company, such as Can-Am, would come out with a machine that could be really used all year round. And this one is their most aggressive off-road offering to date. This is the Canyon. So it's kind of an in-between between the Spyder, which is a larger machine, and the Ryker, which is a smaller machine. Kind of combines them into this, something that's got off-road capable suspension and tires, as well as underbody protection. But in this Redrock version, which is costing about $33,000, you're getting all the bells and whistles to go do adventuring as well. So you've got over 30 gallons of cargo capacity, however you measure your cargo, I suppose. If gallons is useful to you, that's what they're giving you, or liters. We've got live adjustable dampening shocks. It's a pretty robust shock package here. Tons of space. We've got Apple CarPlay support. We've got an adjustable windscreen, heated grips on the front and rear. This is a pretty full-fledged machine. But we will be using virtually none of that today, because today is about experiencing what this trike would be like to use as a daily rider machine. So we're going to head over to the gas station here, fill it up with gasoline, go out and do about 42 miles of mixed riding in kind of city, suburban, and highway settings. Then we're going to come back, fill it back up, see what sort of fuel economy it got, and talk about my experiences using this as a daily sort of rider. I want to call it a sled because it really isn't a bike by any means. It's 1,000 pounds and has 3 car-like tires on it and a 1,300cc inline triple. Now, if you do want to see a full review on the Canyon, check the link below. This coming weekend, I'm going to take it on an extensive trip up near Baker, California from Irvine here. So a lot of highway. I'm going to take it off-road some. We're going to do that riding, as well as I'm just going to spend time with it over the next month or so and really give you my full breakdown on the machine, on-road, off-road, adventuring, etc. So if you do want to see that, subscribe, stay tuned. But this is more of a kind of really a first ride, because other than riding it from my house over to here, I haven't ridden this yet. So I'm pretty excited. For a gear check, we're rocking the Arai Contour X on my skull. I'm wearing the Helite leather jacket on my torso. I'm not really wearing anything down below, so don't tell the gear police, but nothing special, just my kind of riding shoes and some jeans. But you can see I'll be belted in here with my airbag jacket. Yeah, nice big comfortable passenger seat with the heated grips there. Haven't played around much with the cargo boxes yet. No proxy key though. That's something that you get with a BMW at this price point, but not here with the Can-Am. We do get this 12 plus inch gauge screen. We saw it on the Can-Am Origin that we had recently. Semi-automatic transmission, and that is going to be a big talking point here throughout my time with the Canyon, is that it'll shift down for you, but it won't shift up. And when we had the Can-Am, what was that? Sorry, parking brake on. When we had the Can-Am Spyder, that was a frustration of mine, is you've got this borderline touring car sort of machine, and yet it can't shift for you. It's a little frustrating. I mean, it's all they need is an algorithm, because it's all computer controlled anyway. So a bit of a disappointment to me that you still have to press a button in order to shift through your gears. And some people were like, oh, I don't mind doing that. It's like, yeah, that's not the point. The point is that it should be able to at this price. Anyway, let's get it shut off here. Parking brake released. Apply a parking brake. Well, do it for me. Put it. I am applying the parking brake. I'm pressing the brake button. Do it. Do you see this? I'm pushing parking brake. Why isn't it setting? Whatever. I don't think the brake is set, even though I was pressing the button. That's a bit annoying. Anyway, we're going to fill this thing up with 91 octane. I'm just assuming that's necessary for this. Okay, tank is topped off. I'm gonna snap in our headlight, reset any bike information we got here. Let's go here, statistics, current ride, trip A. Let's reset trip B. Now this is a touch screen when you're stopped, but you can also use the handlebars to control everything. Let's roll. And we do have a few different ride modes here on the Canyon. I'm going to have to investigate them here shortly. I believe a few of them are related to off-road riding, understandably. Now I'm going to be riding as though you might ride going into the office in the morning. This isn't a crazy spirited ride, but it's also not a hyper mile. This is just, we're going to be staying within 5 miles per hour of posted speed limits and riding casually. Now there will be a spirited riding section where I'll open it up a little bit. Other than that, this is just what would this bike be like to ride. I apologize to Can-Am anytime I call it a bike. I understand it's not a bike, but we typically do these tests with bikes. Bike. Ride modes. That would be here, maybe? Oh no, here. There we go. So we got suspension mode, Sport, Sport Plus, Comfort, heated hand grips. What is that? Steering effort? And there's our modes. Ride, Rally, All Roads, Sport, and Normal. Let's just start out in Normal. Okay. Now, as I said, if I had an iPhone, we could have Apple CarPlay brought up here. I do not. But other than that, you can hook up any phone to Bluetooth and play your media, control volume through here. I don't believe we have a speaker setup on this rig, which is fine. I typically just use my Cardo headset anyway. Pretty nifty design for the adjustable windscreen. You simply rotate this, bring it up. I'm going to start with it down, see how the noise is and the airflow, and then bring it back up for part of the ride. Of course, automatic transmission there, no clutch. Pretty classic Rotax 4-stroke sound there. And a good amount of airflow here at 50 miles per hour with the windscreen all the way down, including around my body. It's got these interesting little bark busters for hand guards, but you're still getting wind on the top and bottom of your fingers. That was something I enjoyed about the Kawasaki Versys 1100 that we just had, is that they had these sort of bark buster and wind guard combos on the handlebars. I don't understand why Can-Am didn't just make those a little bit larger, but I suppose if you typically ride in warmer situations, you wouldn't want those, so maybe there's an accessory that gives you a little bit more warmth coverage. I would assume there is. I mean, this is a Canadian company after all. And if you've never been on a 3-pointed machine like this, whether it be a Spider or a snowmobile, it takes a little getting used to for how you control it. You definitely feel your body get pulled off of one side. So much so to the fact that I put my wife on the back of the Spider that we had a few years ago, expecting her to be particularly comfortable, but she actually did not like the feeling of getting pushed off the machine when we took corners, because the bike doesn't lean. It doesn't kind of support you down into the seat the way a motorcycle does. It tries to pull you off from inertia. She didn't like that. She felt like she was always ripped off the machine. Now, when you're the driver, you can kind of counter lean. You don't counter steer, but you counter lean. And then you kind of, hold yourself on with the bars in front of you. Just a foot brake on the right side here, no hand brake, so squeeze and the foot brake there does all 3 wheels. Working with about 113 horsepower, if I remember correctly, and something in the upper 80s for torque. So, not bad numbers. Nothing that's going to really surprise you here, especially because this thing weighs 1,000 pounds. So it's not going to rocket you away, but it's lively. And so far, upon initial impression, it does fit the character of the machine. little bit of gap there though in the shift. Did you hear that? Since this is just a pretty conventional transmission, we're not dealing with a dual clutch or anything. That wasn't a very fast shift there. Let's try it again. This is full throttle. That was quicker. A little bit of a gap, but that first one was the worst. Let's put the windscreen up now. Ah, you're actually... Oh, when you're fighting the air at 50 miles per hour here, it's a little bit harder to turn. Huh. That might be difficult to do on the highway. Is that all the way up now? Don't believe it is. I think it's caught. So while the mechanical aspect seems adjustable at speed, maybe that is all the way up. A little bit harder to do when you're traveling and fighting the wind. But it's a bit quieter now. Wind seems to be going just over my helmet at 5'10", 170 pounds, 32-inch inseam. Yeah, that'll be interesting on the highway. I don't have any earplugs in now, but when I go out for the longer ride this weekend, I will have my earplugs in. But turbulence doesn't seem bad at these speeds. But I am getting a lot of wind around me, so despite even being in a warmer jacket, and it's 70 degrees outside Fahrenheit, it's still a little bit chilled. Absolutely gorgeous December day out here on PCH, 66 degrees Fahrenheit by the coast. Water is calm. I'm gonna come up and see a great view of it here. And part of that is because you do still sit particularly high up here on the Can-Am Canyon. I'm looking at the roof rails of the CR-V in front of me. That's not too crazy for an adventure bike, but again, this is not a bike. So compared to the other Can-Am models, I do feel like I'm higher up. Gorgeous. Now, I already am formulating my intro for my review of this machine. And part of that is, it's a bit strange for Can-Am to be offering these to reviewers here in Southern California, because it is, in some senses, very anti-Southern California. Southern California is perfect for an motorcycle, a two-wheeled machine, because you got nice weather nearly all the time, and warmth, but not too much warmth, and you've got fantastic road conditions nearly all the time. The Can-Ams, especially the Canyon here, excel the most when road conditions are subpar and unpredictable. The fact that you've got these all-terrainish sort of tires and the very balanced three-wheel setup means you can ride year-round, even if there's snow and ice on the road, even if there's rain, even if there's dirt. You can pretty much go anywhere. Down here in Southern California, that's not really a big deal unless you plan on intentionally going out into the desert or into the mountains, and in those cases you're probably going to have a machine that's fitting. So by all means, if you lived in Southern California and you lived up in Big Bear or something like that, and you wanted to be able to ride year-round, then yes, a Can-Am Canyon makes a lot of sense. But here on the coast, maybe not quite so much. That is compounded by the fact that you cannot lane filter on a three-wheeled machine like this, which is one of the huge benefits of riding a motorcycle here in Southern California. If you're gonna put your life in peril being on two wheels, you get the added benefit of getting to slip in between traffic legally at red lights or in stop-and-go traffic conditions. Legally speaking, even at higher than stop-and-go traffic conditions. But you cannot do that here with the Canyon. So as we're coming into Laguna Beach, very trafficy sort of area, I'm probably gonna have to sit in the line of traffic with the four-wheeled machines. Here's a perfect example of right here. If I were on a bike, even a larger one, something like the BMW GS or something, I'd split right there. In fact, I think I could even fit this in between those cars, but I don't think you're legally supposed to do that, so I will stay back here where I belong. You can see since the last time I was filming, I have changed the gauge screen to be the daytime theme. It was stuck in night before, but I've switched to auto, which means it'll be white background here during the light, and then when it gets dark enough, it'll switch over to the dark background. It's not a particularly loud engine though, and I do appreciate that. It's not something that you really want to be listening to scream out, especially because you have a little bit more drivetrain noise than you would on a two-wheeled machine. So you're hearing a little bit more of that, a little bit less of the engine. You've got a CVT, belt-driven, so it's not like it's really helping the car sound, or the machine sound good, so I kind of appreciate that you start it up even on cold start and it's fairly refined engine note. But one of the benefits of being freewheeled is in these slower speed sort of situations, I don't have to worry about balancing the machine. So if I'm somebody who is a smaller stature, or maybe disabled in one way or another, or just not very strong, I don't have to worry about balancing this big, heavy, adventure-laden machine when it's in slower speed navigation like this. Emergency vehicle. Interesting. Doesn't look like I get as many finger waves being on this as I do on my motorcycles. It's a bit disappointing. But here we go, stop and go situation here as we filter in zipper merge with traffic, and transmission does a good job at managing that. I can zip forward here in first, get ready to make this light, which it looks like I can do so. And they're in this little bit more of a stop and go situation. Again, a place where I don't usually like to be on heavier, easy to stall motorcycles. My only concern here on the Canyon is just keeping the wheels in lane. I can actually stand up very comfortably too. Help my visibility. Big, wide foot pegs are a little far forward. I kind of find myself leaning a bit. But for lower speed stuff, should be able to stand up quite okay. 3rd Street Hill, let's tackle this in first gear. Whee! So far I've been happy with the suspension. Now the Canyon in general gets 3 different suspension packages for all the different trims. The base Canyon has what I believe is a fixed preload adjustment only suspension, so there's no active dampening adjustments. Then you step up to the XT, you get a little bit more of a robust suspension. But this has the KYB Smart Shocks, and they do have live adjustment for compression and rebound dampening. So far I've been happy with their performance in these on-road sort of settings, hitting road imperfections. Machine's handling it well, I've been comfortable. Whoa. Just press the horn instead of the shift up button. There are a lot of controls up here in front of you. All right, we're coming up to our sportier riding section, so let's dial over into sport mode. Does rev out pretty high for a larger motor. Oh yeah. Man, yeah. It's not an intuitive sort of thrill experience the way it kind of is like on a roller coaster or a motorcycle. But it is still fun to get that sensation of speed. The steering really weights up. Oh. First gear is decently tall as well, so even here at 30 miles per hour, I'm in first. It's a linear torque band, so it just kind of pulls progressively up through the rev range. Yeah, it's not something you're going to be taking out canyon carving. That's not the point. But you can hustle it a little bit, wake it up, have some fun. We'll dial back now into normal. Coming into the end of our more city-oriented section of the ride. This is actually a pretty decent machine to be on for city riding. The fact that you don't have to do any of the balancing, you don't have to have your feet down or anything. You come to a stop and you just sit the same way you were already sitting. Actually makes for a pretty relaxing experience. Now, like I said, not being able to lane filter is disappointing. Here's another example of when if I were on a two-wheeled machine, I would hop right up to the front here, but I will be waiting behind the Pool Pros instead. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's an easy bike to ride around slower speed sort of scenarios. And I was happy with the ride, happy with the comfort. Now, something that is a bit interesting is I have paired my phone and my Cardo headset to the bike's infotainment system. Therefore, I can control my music using the track buttons here and the volume buttons here. However, because the shifting is done with your thumb, and you also adjust the volume and the tracks with your thumb, I have had multiple situations already where I've needed to shift and I've accidentally pressed the track up and down button. Now, I'm not saying that they're in the same spot, they're not. But what I am saying is that it's a similar muscle movement. And a lot of riding a machine like this is allowing your muscle movements to be reactive, second nature, just memory. Just, it needs to happen, go do it. Now, when you have a foot shifter on a motorcycle, it's a non-issue. You clutch in, you shift, nothing else is done with your left foot. So shifting is always done. It's an independent movement over there. However, because shifting on this is done with my fingers, there are times when I mean to shift and I accidentally end up changing my song. That's been a bit frustrating. And that might actually push me to unpair my phone and Cardo headset from the bike and just simply control them the way I do on every other bike using the hand controls. Because if you're doing that, then it's an entirely different motion. You're reaching up to your helmet and pressing the buttons as opposed to doing this. The only advantage is to having everything paired up with the device, with the bike here, is that I can see what song is playing and I could play to my rear passenger as well. I could pair both Cardos up to the infotainment and then play them that way and control the volume together. But other than that, there's not really much advantage to having my phone paired via Bluetooth. Now for the CarPlay, yes, that would be beneficial. I could have the navigation up there and everything, and I'll probably do that for the review. But for this, I'd probably rather just have my Cardo independent. We're getting up to 29 miles per gallon on our riding so far. I don't know if that's good or not. It's not necessarily great for a motorcycle, but it's okay for a car, I suppose. But we'll see if that actually goes up or down as we're going faster through these suburban roads and then eventually to the highway. Now we're coming up to the 5 freeway. I'm gonna get to take advantage of that extra wind protection and the cruise control here on the canyon. Now, I'm actually not 100% sure where the legalities lie on using a three-wheeler in the HOV lanes, but I'm gonna assume it's still okay, so we're probably gonna settle in over there. And initial highway report. It's decently loud because you do have these more tires, car-like tires on the road, but you're also just hearing the noise from around. The engine, however, is running at a very comfortable about 3,700 RPM, so that's not too much of an issue. Great stability, obviously. Twitchiness doesn't seem to be bad. I am getting a decent bit of wind turbulence, though. Just kind of around. It's not... I mean, here would be much worse. You probably hear how much louder that is. It's definitely quieter than being up there, but it's not a super large windscreen, so I am hearing it around me a little bit. Let's try out the cruise control. There you go, very easy to set. Right over here with your right fingers. Yeah, okay, doesn't seem like a bad place to be. Can I adjust the windscreen? Oh, it is tougher. It is tougher. It's doable, but we are fighting that wind. It doesn't have the gliding smoothness of a motorcycle on the highway, however. I'm finding that here with the handguards, or not the handguards, the handlebars. There's a slightest bit of twitchiness, kind of just going back and forth, whereas when you're out on the highway on a big touring motorcycle, there's a sort of, you can kind of just steer the whole thing with your body because it all just sort of reacts smoothly and calmly. It's not quite so much the case here with the Canyon. About 15 minutes of highway there. Not bad. Like I said, aside from a little bit of I don't want to go as far as to say squirreliness, just the reactions of the road there from the handlebars. Other than that, nice place to be out here on the highway. Decent amount of wind protection. Again, comfortable. Suspension's been great. And our fuel economy actually did manage to go up one while we were cruising there on the highway. So definitely seems like it's geared for a bit more of the mileage there, the highway cruising. I'll try to stretch its legs a little bit more this weekend when I take it out to the desert and see if it could comfortably cruise around 80 miles per hour, so 80, 85, that range. But doing 70 on the highway, no issues there. So after 1.2 hours here in the saddle for our DM Commuter fuel economy test, it's a comfortable bike. It is. It makes me think of the spectrum of motorcycling of, okay, you can be all the way on one end and be entirely uncomfortable after an hour if you're on something like a Yamaha R1 or a ZX10 or something, a race bike. It could be a ton of fun, very thrilling, but your wrists are sore, your body's sore, suspension, everything like that is rough after an hour. Then you can be on the other end of the spectrum, more like a Goldwing, where okay, after an hour it's comfortable, you're still settled in, but it hasn't necessarily been all that thrilling. This is definitely way over on the end of touring and comfort. I haven't really been excited or thrilled throughout this ride, even when we were opening it up. But if this were my hour commute into the office or something like that, or over to a parent's house or something, this is plenty comfortable and plenty good to keep going. So it'll be cool to see how it is riding all day on this. In fact, and I know this is a bit preliminary because this is my first day with the bike, but I would go as far as to say this makes more sense to me than the Can-Am Spyder RT that we had a few years ago. Similar price, still large and heavy and cumbersome, but a little less capable on dirt roads and kind of more adventure riding and everything. This seems just as comfortable, maybe a little bit less wind protection, maybe a little bit firmer suspension, but all things considered, still a very comfortable machine and also more capable. So making a little bit more sense to me there. We do have self-canceling turn signals as well, so while I turn in here, now that I've straightened my wheels out, the turn signal disables. All topped off there, we ended up putting in 1.210 gallons back into the 7-gallon tank. So after 42.9 miles traveled divided by 1.21, giving us, okay, actually a decent bit better than the indicated there. What I'm going to do in this situation, because it's not a perfect science fill up here, if you look into the tank, I was able to sort of get it right up near the filler neck, but then it sort of settled back down, I think. And it's not like it's a little bit tougher with the motorcycles here and these sort of machines to get a real proper fill. So I'm going to split the difference between the bike's readout and and our pump calculated readout here. Let's go 33 miles per gallon here for the Can-Am Canyon. Now, for the size of vehicle and the capability, I'm not too upset about that. But you do have to realize that you're not getting motorcycle levels of fuel economy on a machine like this. I mean, we had the BMW R1300 RT, and that got 46 miles per gallon, despite its weight of near 700 pounds and all the power and the windshields and top box and everything like that. So you're really not doing that much better than a car at 33 MPG here, but a little bit more fun and definitely more of a different experience than a car, and definitely a lot more fuel efficient than something like a truck. I'm got a 7.1 gallon fuel tank on here, so 7.1 times 33 miles per gallon. It's giving you a respectable 230 miles of mixed riding cruising range here if you're daily riding your Can-Am Canyon. Now, all things considered, like I said, I think this makes for a pretty decent argument for a daily rider machine. You can do it in any sort of weather. You can put things and people on it and in it, maybe other way around there, and it looks kind of cool, and you can have some fun. It's not providing a motorcycle experience, that is for sure, but it is providing a riding experience. So if you're somebody who likes being out in the elements and having more of a thrilling experience than simply being in a box, Can-Am Canyon's pretty cool. So stay tuned for our full coverage. I'm really curious what it's going to be like once we spend time with it. No, that must have already been there. So how does somebody do that on a machine that can't really be rolled? Interesting. Either way, stay tuned. We're going to spend a lot of time with the Canyon here, do some good riding, and catch up with you after I've had the time with it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, this person insists on parking right here. That's okay. I'm Charlie from DM Moto, and as always, ride on.